fundamental decision was this. George Romero is making a serious bunch of movies about the living dead. I don't want to walk on his toes any deeper than I have to. I'm going to do it as a comedy. Directing is what I came out here to do, you know, country boy getting off the Greyhound bus. I wanted to be a director. And I asked, how do you do that? And I was told, can't do it in one step. I was given all kinds of advice. I was told, one school said, become a film editor first. Another school said, become a writer first. So I became a film editor, a film actor, and a writer, mostly in film school. And the writing sort of took off for me before anything else did. And wasn't what I had in mind, but that's how it ended up. And Alien ended up being directed brilliantly by Ridley Scott, which was both a joy and a disappointment. It was a disappointment because I wanted to direct it, but it was a joy because of the quality of the work that he did. And then things began to be offered to me to direct, which I didn't like much. I didn't think they were quality projects. And Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, came about oddly. The producer turned to me and said, can you direct this? I said, yeah, sure. He said, would you like to direct this? I thought, yes. And so the horror began. And it isn't all on the screen either. Tortuous history of that movie and screenplay, going all the way back, of course, to Romero's film, Night of the Living Dead, Russo being his writer on that. They subsequently split up, gave each other the right to go and make more Living Dead movies. Russo wrote a script called Return of the Living Dead. Romero made Dawn of the Dead. This independent producer named Tom Fox bought Russo's Return of the Living Dead, set up a production deal with whoever, whenever, however, you know, these things happened. When it finally arrived to me to write it, I read Mr. Russo's script, and I didn't want to make that script. I didn't think it was right to intrude so directly on Romero's turf. You know, it was a sequel. It was a serious sequel to to Night of the Living Dead, which was going its own way in Romero's films.
I know one of the hesitancies that Dan had about hiring me originally was he was very familiar with my work because we were both mutual friends of Ron Cobb. We'd see each other at parties, and Dan had seen my dinosaur book. He was very confident I'd have no trouble designing the corpses. His concern was that I wouldn't know how to do any high-tech stuff, high-tech design. And then I did a comic book cover called Alien Worlds. And it showed a spaceman being sucked into the ground with all these little creatures surrounding him. And Dan looked at the detail in the spacesuit, and he said, hey, Stout can do high-tech. And that's when he decided to put me on the short list for production designer.
I knew right away I had to have some very strong artist to design the stuff in the picture. It had to have a look, and it had to be a capable artist. And I've always tended to go more toward a good artist rather than a movie professional designer. And so I thought of Bill Stout, asked him. He said he'd like to do it, and we got together and we just sort of thought our way through the thing. And Bill did wonderful, wonderful, wonderful designs, some of which we were able to pull off very much to my satisfaction. Like, for example, the Tar Man, that black, drippy, skeletal guy. I mean, we got that right. I don't know if Bill still has the artwork he did for it, but it was quite gorgeous in a hideous way, and I think we did it justice. Pressure of time, budget, it was a very low-budget picture. The rest of the corpses, we had a very specific vision. We wanted them to look like actual dead mummies like you would see in Guanajuato. I like to do as much of the design and effects as possible before you do the principal photography. wasn't fully possible, but yeah, I got billed right away. We got cranking on this stuff.
Dan's a really smart guy and a really good storyteller, and as I said, he's very visual. Usually as production designer, I'm usually the first person that a director hires because they want to get a really good visual hook on the film early on so that we're saving money. We're not wandering all around visually trying to find out what this film is going to look like. Dan was smart enough to do that. We didn't have a whole lot of lead time. I ended up working 7 days a week. I think I took half Saturday off, but the other days were 18-hour days minimum. It was pretty grueling. I just figured that's what I had to do. Plus also, working on the other films, that's what I saw the other production designers do. So I figured if I was doing anything less than that, I was not really working my full job and benefiting the film as I could.
Challenges? Yes, I found challenges. I found many. They all blurred together into one giant challenge, sort of the way that little neutrons come together and crush together into a neutron star and become one big neutron. All little challenges came together and became one great big challenge that just rolled all over the place.
Well, Dan had very specific views on what this film should look like. He actually made my job as production designer very easy because Dan is a very visual person. I don't know if you're aware, but Dan can really draw well. Really good artist. And so made my job much easier because he was very specific with what he wanted. He wanted the corpses to look realistic, and so that put me on this sort of path of discovery and researching actual corpses, preserved corpses, and what they look like. I got the huge photo book on the mummies of Guanajuato. I began doing research at the LA Public Library, looking at police pathology photographs. Our intent was to make this film look as real as possible. Even though there were a lot of comedic aspects, we thought that by making it as real as possible, it would actually sell the comedy even better. My basic design point of departures were the mummies of Guanajuato, actual police pathology photographs, and then also Dan and I are both big fans of the old EC comics, Tales of the Crypt, Vault of Horror, Crypt of Terror, things like that. And so we wanted to pull some of that influence into it as well, especially because the EC comics sort of treated the resurrection of the dead as a horror piece, but also with a lot of humor as well. And so I went back and looked at the Graham Ingalls and the Jack Davis work and used their corpses, their revivified corpses, also to influence the look of the corpses. And Dan treated the corpses as principals in the film. In fact, his phrase for it was the principal corpses. So we had the principal actors, but we also had the principal corpses, Tarman being the main principal corpse, also the half corpse, the woman on the gurney, another principal corpse, the yellow man, another principal corpse, and then there were all these subsidiary principal corpses or not so principal corpses, such as the fellows up here. This was based on a Guanajuato mummy, as was this. This was more EC influenced. In fact, I named this one EC. I thought it would be funny if one of them had lost their lower jaw, since there really isn't anything that connects the lower jaw to the head once you're dead, especially if it rots away. And so I named him Jaws. This is also based on a Guanajuato mummy. This was a little tribute to Bernie Wrightson. This is the look that we really wanted to have in the film. This is the back view of Tarman. Tarman was a real interesting problem in that here we wanted to present this basically a skeleton whose flesh is turned into this tar-like substance and is stripping off the bones. Well, how do you do that convincingly with a man in a suit? It's obviously going to be much bulkier than a skeleton. So there was a couple of solutions to that. For one, whenever I do man-in-suit creatures or monsters, I always insist that you never hire a stuntman for that. You always hire an actor, because the actor is going to bring an extra special bit of life to that costume or that suit. He's going to think of things because of his craft that a stuntman would never think of. Stuntmen their job is to think of action. So actors, we got this fabulous actor, Alan Troutman, to be in the suit, and Alan was incredibly thin. And so what I did is I designed this in such a way so that the bones were actually layered on the outside of Alan's body, and then we built up the flesh, or the dripping flesh, on top of that. So the illusion was that this was the skeleton. Alan could move in a way, it looked as though his bones weren't connected, weren't held together by anything. So he was incredible movements. He really brought that suit to life.
I have a box in my closet, and whenever I want an idea, I go and I pull one out. Stay away from my closet. That's my box.
If ever I'm stuck for ideas, I always have an instant solution. It's different from Dan's. I take a shower. People tell me that it's the release of ions in the shower that stimulate creativity, but if I'm ever stuck on a problem or having to come up with a visual solution or something that's bothering me, or I write too, if I've hit the wall with a scene that I'm writing, I take a shower and instantly, boom, I get the solution. It just comes to me in the shower. It might be just the fact that showers are relaxing, and that's all I needed was just to relax, but it never fails.
You want to know, seriously, a real technique that I use for getting ideas? If I'm in the middle of a project, in the middle of writing something, thinking something up, and feel a little creatively stalled, and I want to turn on the juice, I lie down, close my eyes, and try to go to sleep, and immediately something like a fountain begins to just squirt pertinent ideas up. And usually within about 5 minutes I sit up and I begin putting these ideas down. When the picture was first completed, I was very frustrated. I saw everything that I'd wanted and didn't get. That's frankly about all I could see for months after the film was finished. And as time passes and the immediacy of the struggle fades, I become more and more pleased with it and proud of it.
The passion that both Dan and I brought to the film, I think, helped to give the film its cult status. The fact that we took our jobs really seriously, and that even though we were making a film that was funny, we based everything we did in reality. I think that helped to give the film some longevity as well.
It's very hard to plan one's life and career more than one step. You try, but then life happens to you. And so you pretty much have to seize what's there or let it pass one way or the other. I haven't been very successful in designing a life and having it turn out that way. I did it, but it didn't turn out that way. Except that I did get to work in movies. That much happened. But the details were from God and the devil.